When ageism catches up to you. Now, I was definitely somebody who didn't think that I would ever get old. I would wake up one day and I'm 30, getting out of bed, bones popping. When we're young, we are all susceptible to this mindset.
What's good, YouTube? It's Justice I Used to Be Paying. Today I'm back with another video. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Lil Uzi's ageism catching up to him. But before I get into that, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Do all those things. It helps me out a ton. Gen Z is a very ageist generation. We hate all things that are old. In Gen Z, if you are over the age of 20, you're ancient, bro. Like, you might as well.
Bro, I get called Unc, and I'm like, damn, what happened to Big Bro? Like, what is going on?
We'll just get ready to go ahead and get in that box and go 6 feet under, because your life is over once you hit 20. Like, you ever see those videos of those like kids or those basketball players in college when they're like, how old do you need to be considered to be old nowadays? And they're like, ah, man, 24. You know, what year do you need to be born in to be considered old? And they're like, 2003. And it's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, on TikTok, you would think I'm the oldest man on the planet. I'm not going to tell you my exact age, but I'm in between the years of 20 and 26. And they always tell me to go start a family. You're Unc now. Let it go.
Starting a family in this economy? I don't know about that.
Oh, bro, you're not a kid anymore. Why are you making TikTok? Like, you would think I'm the oldest person to ever step foot on Earth. And even though Uzi he is a younger millennial, he acted just like this when he was on his come up. He would constantly talk about his age. He would talk about the difference between himself and the older generation of rappers, or the older generation.
Cats to see what y'all really built.
Hey,
though.
you heard me? I'm
really
too young.
built.
Your fans gonna be disappointed. all the old guys.
Of hip hop. He would talk.
Classic. I'm not like, he was cooking Ebro. That was when Ebro wanted him to, when he played the RoboCop instrumental, because Uzi was like, that's my favorite Kanye song. And he was like, all right, rap over it, nigga. And he was like, whoa, hold on now. I'm not about to rap.
Talk about how him and his generation are doing things differently, and he heavily valued that youth. And he would say to all the older people, if you're not going to get with the program, then you just need to go ahead and get out the way. Yet now, Uzi is of the age of the people that he used to call old. And I think that he's actually in a very interesting part of his career now. Lil Uzi is a founding member of this generation of rap. A lot of the trends, fashion, and music really got its start with Uzi and his come up.
Nigga is wearing a leopard, a matcha colored leopard. This is that rock star shit.
It still feels a bit weird to say, since this is like my high school era of music, but Uzi is an OG at this point. He's been around for like over a decade now as a major player in the rap scene. This gimmicky rapper from Philadelphia with purple dreads and strange outfits and even stranger music.
Come on, gang. Think of all the stuff that he had to do to stay relevant, though. He had to dress like that to stay relevant. It's just crazy.
Actually lasted 10 years.
Look at his face, gang. Like, all the tats on his, you know what I'm saying? Oh, what? I couldn't live this lifestyle.
Years,
it's not for
instead
me.
of falling off like a lot of the media members said he would when he was on his rise. He's now 31 years old and now at a point in his career where he is an elder statesman. And while I wouldn't say his career is in a complete state of flux, there definitely isn't a laid out path for him at the moment. And the future, the near future especially, is up in question. Uzi has always seen himself as the young guy coming in with all the sauce, throwing a wrench into the game. You know, innovating sounds and styles, almost starting a revolution in hip hop. And he was right to believe those things about himself. But now he's the older, established guy who isn't really trailblazing or breaking any new ground anymore. In fact, his style that was seen as so chaotic and so new and so out there,
it sounds dated. Whenever he drops music now, unfortunately, and I was a big Uzi fan back in the day, right? He just sounds dated. And he sounds like he's trying to chase his 2016 sound, because when he tried to innovate and do a whole bunch of different experimental stuff, his fans were like, no, we don't want this. We want 2016 Uzi. And now he's stuck in a time zone and a time period where he may think, bro, I've evolved as a musician. I don't want to do this style anymore. He probably looks at that style as so like unpolished. And when he thinks the new stuff is dope, but he can't do the new stuff because his fans want all the old stuff. And then when he does the old stuff, he sounds dated. Very tough cycle.
Has been adapted by so many people that came behind him. He's not even really seen as super different anymore. He doesn't stick out like a sore thumb like he used to in the past. There was a time when Uzi was so new and everything that he was doing was so different that everything he did was either copied or it was heavily debated upon as the worst thing to ever happen in the history of hip hop or something really cool and something that's going to break open doors for the next generation. Now, I'm not saying that Uzi can no longer innovate in rap after turning 30 or being over the age of 30, but it just doesn't come as easy for him as it once did. It's not as natural.
The creative juices isn't flowing as much. Maybe he needs ghostwriters. Maybe he needs help with writing. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what Drake does. That's what all the big musicians and artists do outside of rap/hip hop. I don't care if someone's like, bro, I do it all on my own. You have ghostwriters. Yeah, but I'm relevant 20 years down the line. You know what I'm saying? I'm still making good songs. And it doesn't mean if I have writers, doesn't mean that they have to write the entire thing. I can be in the process of it. Steel sharpens steel. You know what I'm saying? Iron sharpens iron. And then we make a beautiful hit together.
As when you're the new guy who's coming in and setting the entire world on fire. I think we're seeing this reflected in Uzi's music. Lil Uzi's music isn't as dominant as it was 5 to 7 years ago now. In fact, his last 2 albums weren't really super well received unanimously. Now, I will die on the hill that Pink Tape is a good album. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what anyone has to say. You can't tell me anything about that project. I think it's really good. I enjoy the experimental stuff. I enjoy some of the weird, quirky stuff on there. I think it's a ton of fun. But there's no denying that that isn't the total overall kind of summary opinion when it comes to the Pink Tape. Most people in rap really didn't care for it that much. Even some of Uzi's diehard fans didn't really care for that album that much. Now, when we get to Eternal Take 2, there's not much I can say for that project.
I'm not gonna lie, there was like 2 songs that I like off of Eternal Take 2 that I have maybe 3 or 4 that I have downloaded in my library from that album. But honestly, I feel like that's most albums nowadays. It would have to be a really good album for me to download more than 5 songs out of 15 songs. That is, in the state of music just in general, that sucks. I also feel like music, it could be a smash, but the shit comes and it goes so much quicker than what it used to feel like, at least, you know?
I think that is, I don't want to say a bad album, but it's definitely not a good album. And I think that opinion has been reflected amongst the community, whether it's Uzi fans or just fans as a whole. Everyone kind of agrees that Eternal Take 2 was a miss. And I think that not only did the poor reaction from fans kind of get to Uzi a bit, I also think that the low sales did as well, because this album only sold 60K first week, which for Uzi, the guy that Uzi is a very low mark. It's truly an amazing thing that Uzi's career has gone on for this long with this much great music, this much fan support, this many numbers and accomplishments. Like, it's an amazing thing. However, I don't think Uzi ever really thought of himself as like getting older and rapping. And I know that sounds weird because, like, you know, it was only 7 years ago, but still, when you look at the way that he used to talk or look at some of his old tweets, it was like he didn't picture himself rapping at 30 plus. Maybe he thought he would be full time doing the rock star thing, or maybe just moving on to a completely different venture in life. But he would tweet stuff like, oh, you know, if you're older than 25, then you're old, just accept it, or something like that. Or he would.
That means low key, like at 25, 26, you should definitely have a different mindset, and your mindset should switch to a more mature mindset, you know? So, I mean, it's
things
not
like
wrong.
If you're 30 and up, you're lame. And now he is that 30-year-old lame person, I guess, according to his own words.
I told a lot of people, it's a lot of people I never saw in person. I want to see how they look in person.
Like who?
I don't know. All the old people. I want to see how they look, see how old they look.
And it feels like in his career, he's kind of stuck. Like, he just doesn't really know what to do next. Now, of course, this is me looking from the outside in, but I think there's a lot of evidence to prove that based on him saying a whole bunch of different things. Old Uzi, new era. We're going back to 2016. We're
See, I just
part of
said that.
1600. Like, there's a lot of different things that he's been saying. So it feels like he's not really quite sure where to go next. And I think that is a bit weird for him, because Uzi never had to think about what he's going to do next, what his next sound was going to be. Uzi just did. He just did things, and people liked it regardless. So now when he's just doing things and people are kind of like, I don't know about that, Uzi. I think that is kind of weird for him, and he's not really quite sure how to handle that. Ironically, whenever Uzi tries to like activate his fan base or rejuvenate them, get them excited again, he kind of leans into the old Uzi. He'll say stuff like the old Uzi's coming back, or he'll do a bunch of things that remind people of stuff from back in the day. Or
it's nostalgia. You know what I'm saying? He's nostalgia farming.
You know, he'll even say he's going to continue a series that people loved in his discography, like Love is Rage. I think that's exactly what happened with EA2. EA2 didn't really need to be a continuation of the original EA. It didn't really feel like it musically, at least to me. Now, of course, he tried to do some things with the aesthetics and, you know, trying to tell the story of now he's in the alien world and he's breaking out or whatever. But that album just didn't really feel like it needed to be EA2, besides nostalgia baiting fans, at least in my opinion. And sometimes he'll even like have his hair dyed purple again to get those 2016 vibes back and have the fans going crazy. When the last two albums came out and they weren't super well received, Uzi tried to like distract us. I don't really know how to describe it, but he's like immediately like, forget about that, I'm dropping new music. And he did that both with the Pink Tape and EA2. And he typically does it with like old music. He's like, yeah guys, I'm gonna drop some Love is Rage 3 for y'all. I'm gonna drop Love is Rage 3, or I'm gonna...
What about Love is Rage 3?
Oh yeah, that's coming. Not too long. Probably, like, honestly, I know I usually be lying.
Damn, does that shit hurt? What is on his face? Does that shit hurt? I'm not gonna lie, bro. Bro is a rock star. You know what I'm saying? So what I normally think about certain things, I was like, bro, it's Uzi, so I just let it slide. Who am I to let things slide? But you know what I'm saying?
A couple months.
Drop some stuff that sounds like old Uzi. Like, it's kind of like his tactic of like getting what I guess is the heat off of him for dropping a project that a lot of people didn't like. When he dropped Pink Tape and, you know, there was a lot of mixed reviews, a lot of people weren't liking it, some people were, he immediately came out and said, hey y'all, I'm about to drop Barter 1600, which was supposed to be his version of Young Thug's Barter 6, which is Young Thug's version of the Carter series from Lil Wayne, which, you know, it's a really long thing that just, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, he was like, oh yeah, Barter 1600 on the way, and he was posting a bunch of snippets and doing like Young Thug cosplay. It was kind of strange. But then after that, he was like, hey y'all, if y'all get the Pink Tape to, I believe he said if y'all get the Pink Tape to #1, he would drop Love is Rage 3, which, you know, is a historic series in the Uzi catalog. That's probably his strongest series in his discography. So people were like, oh my God, Love is Rage 3, the return to the old Uzi sound. We have to run, you know, and it was like trying to almost distract us from the fact that the conversation surrounding the Pink Tape wasn't completely positive all the way around. And with EA2, he did a very similar thing. EA2 came out and...
But think about it like this, though. The topic is Uzi, but I'm going to bring up Drake for this. He's like the only him in Future. There's very few acts, excuse me, in hip hop where they're still around and they're still as relevant as they are. Young Thug, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's only a few people that have been around for a decade plus and you still know their name. So even just because Uzi is like in this weird predicament, I still feel like he's miles and miles and miles and miles ahead of other artists who were here for 2 years. We're here for only one song or 3 or 4 or 5 years. You know what I'm saying? He's here for a decade. We still talk about Uzi, you know?
You know, if you thought the conversation surrounding the Pink Tape was really negative, the conversation surrounding that album was very, very negative. And he immediately was like dropping a snippet on Instagram and people were like, oh my God, the old Uzi's back, the old Uzi's back. I can't believe it. Yeah, this is going to be way better than the album. People were even saying that EA2 was just his last album on the deal and he was just trying to put an album out there for the label so he can get off his label and then actually drop his real music. Whenever fans have to make up their own theory like that, especially they go to that theory and they say that this album was just a throwaway to get off the label, that's how you know an album was kind of bad, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, you know, I love Uzi, and that's the only bad album in his discography, in my opinion. But whenever the fans are going out of their way and saying, yo, he dropped this album just to get off his label, it's a throwaway, don't even pay attention to that album, bro. It doesn't matter.
It does
that's
matter.
How you
it does matter because they had to drop. Why would an artist want to tank his discography? Why would they want to tank their discography? I think that's a bad argument, you know?
To know with the project. It seems like whenever Uzi feels like his music isn't landing the way he wanted, he kind of resorts to nostalgia bait. Not only is his music not being glazed, but it feels like he lacks a bit of confidence in what he's doing. For the Pink Tape, he didn't put out a single music video, and as soon as he got like 2 weeks away from the album, he completely stopped talking about it, stopped promoting it, stopped posting about it. It's like as soon as he drops and it's not loved, he tries to move on as quick as possible. Uzi is far from a lame artist, at least to me. He just now has to be a bit more intentional with what he does. Like he said when he was on the come up with these old guys who had been running around for a minute, they got to get with the program. Uzi is now the guy who might need to get with the program with some of these young guys. Uzi's at a very pivotal point in his career where a lot of people are doubting him.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what Drake does. Drake will see a bubbling artist that not the masses know. The masses won't know this bubbling artist, but we know. We're like, damn, this song is heat. You know what I'm saying? But the masses hasn't, the radio listeners and the people that only listen to Spotify playlists where they're not just in the know of who's up next. Drake knows who's up next, features with them. Now his relevance and his longevity is now multiplied. That's what Uzi needs to do.
And
embrace the young guys. Feature with 9 Vicious. I know you got a song with Yeet, but do that more. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully get back in the good graces of Cardi. So him and Cardi destroy Lonely, Ken Carson, the underground scene. You know what I'm saying? So Camo. He needs to collaborate with them, and then he's good.
Others.
He needs to go the Wiz Khalifa route. Wiz Khalifa is smart. He don't care if you're dog shit. He gonna be on that feature, and that's how he's able to extend. You know what I'm saying?
Are just hopeful that he can return to the musical dominance he once had. I think Uzi is an amazing artist, and if he locks in, he can awaken another prime. He'll pretty much always be relevant, but if he's still able to be a creative mind that people follow into his 30s, that would be super impressive. It is just a bit funny, though, that when Uzi finally starts to hit some rocks in the road in his career is when he gets to the age that he was ridiculing a lot of people for just being. Like, you can't choose your age, but Uzi was really going at people's necks for daring to be born before him. Now, his career could have fallen off in like a few years like Lil Pump or Smoke Perp, and we wouldn't even be having these discussions. So it's not like unheard of to finally have some issues in your career 10 years in, or it's not a bad thing, or it's not, something to try to point the finger at Uzi and be like, oh my God, you're a bum, you fell off. Like, it's none of that. It is just a bit funny, though, that, he was so heavy on his age and youth and all this stuff, and being young was so great, and now that
But he's also leaning into his fan base who were younger people, because the people who are supporting him were young people. And they're like, yeah, hell no, I'm not old. They're old. Fuck them. He's just leaning into his fan base, but it's unfortunate that as he grows, his fan base wasn't able to grow up with him. That's the unfortunate part.
No longer young, at least according to that version of Uzi, even though he's still a young person. Like, 30 is not old in any way, shape, or form.
It's not.
It's just funny that now his struggles come once he's past the age of 27, and it's just kind of a bit of a full circle moment of, like, the power of the tongue, maybe. But I don't know. Regardless, if you made it this far, let me know what you think of this video down below. What do you think Uzi needs to do to really get back on the right track?
All right, y'all. So that's the video for the day. Do you think Lil Uzi was wrong for leaning into his youthfulness and be like, bro, all these old people, man, I'm never gonna be old? Or I think there was one time he said that he wanted to be a part of the 27 Club, which, if you don't know, is a very, very, very disturbing theory, mostly amongst musicians. On that note, please like, comment, subscribe. Peace.